If you're interested in what I look like, then make sure you check out my Instagram at Joe the Insomniak. When I was 8, I went camping with my mum, stepdad and my little brother. We were all in the same tent. I remember getting up in the middle of the night to go for a pee when I was walking back to the tent. From the tree line I heard, Mike, do you want to go for a walk in the woods? It sounded exactly like my mother's voice whispering, and I could see the silhouette of whoever it is whispering, and it looks like my mum. But I knew she hadn't left the tent where she's sleeping. I remember my heart pounding like I knew it wasn't my mum and something more sinister. But I respond, yeah, 1 minute, let me grab a coat, because I didn't want to upset them. I then heard, hurry up. I got inside the tent and woke up everyone in a panic. My mum and stepdad told me that I must have sleepwalked, but I remembered it so vividly, I knew what happened. I knew it wasn't in my head. I'm terrified of the woods now. This is actually true, by the way, and I try and tell my mum every now and then that I saw and heard it, but she kind of dismisses it. I don't really believe in supernatural like ghosts and such, but I genuinely believe I almost got kidnapped that night, and my parents didn't want to accept it happened in some ways, or maybe they just didn't believe me. I was car camping with friends on the Oregon coast at the designated site in the woods. While I was carrying firewood, our camp neighbour came up to me offering to help, and then introduces himself to the group. We invite him over for a beer, and it turns out he's called James, and he was a retired boat cook who used to work on fishing ships in Alaska, but now he's travelling the west coast and staying in campgrounds. James was a kind of quiet guy, but as the night went on, he started acting suspicious, not really interacting with anyone, staring off into open space and getting up, taking a step or two then sitting down again. Now it started getting pretty late, and we're all getting ready to go to bed. I usually sleep outside in a sleeping bag without a tent, unless it's raining or something. So I get up in my sleeping bag and move away from the fire before passing out. I then wake up to Jason standing over me with a weird look on his face, and my friends start freaking the hell out. It turns out that they all thought he stumbled back over to his campsite, but no. Instead, he went over to me and started stumbling and rolling around. I was angry and tired. We kicked him out while I went to sleep in my friend's tent. Now, at this point, I feel I have to say that these things might seem like warning signs, but I didn't really think too much of it at the time. Maybe he was drunk and lost, who knows. Now the next day, we all pile into a car to explore the town, and as we leave, we saw James sitting in the campsite, just staring at a lantern across from him. We're gone for about 3 hours when we get back, and Jason's still there staring at it. Now we're all making dinner late at night when he stumbled over with a bottle of vodka and apologised for being so weird the night before. My friend accepted his apology, offering him a burrito, and James proceeds to start drinking the vodka and eating with us. Completely different guy now. Really embarrassed for the night before and sorry. But as the night's progression hits, I thought he's gonna do something weird. He was acting a little off, but maybe it was due to a touch of alcoholism, and probably he's just harmless. Now after dinner, I was sitting on a log with my back to the woods facing the fire, and my friends are all arranged around the campfire on chairs on the other side. James is actually still with us and sitting on the log next to me on my right. Between me and the group, we're all having a great time laughing, but as the night goes on, James is getting more quiet and seems really angry. Around midnight, I glance over and notice that he's actually mumbling to himself. Now, I'm the only one close enough to him to sense this change, and I start to try and figure out what he's saying. I follow his gaze and notice that he's staring intently at the axe to the left of me. I don't want to spook him by moving, but it's about this time that I hear what he's saying, and he's talking about stabbing us with his knife over and over again, talking about killing every one of us with this knife. He has this horrible glazed look. I lock eyes with my friend across the fire, and he notices too that something's really wrong and stands up. I grab the axe and run as fast as I can to the other side. Jason gets up and starts running towards us. My friend, who's a big guy, grabs him and holds him while my other friend takes his knife. We debate about packing up and leaving, but end up escorting him back to his campsite and sitting in the car until the morning when we can report it. The next day at sunrise, when I head over to the camp ranger station, I notice that James has actually completely gone with all of his stuff, even though he already paid for more than a week. Now, I've done my fair share of deeper backcountry stuff and seen bears, heard weird noises, and even thought I saw a Wendigo once, but to this day, this is by far the most strange thing that's ever happened to me. I went camping with a group of friends on some public land that I knew quite well. I spent a lot of time out there trail riding and camping most weekends for about 3 years. While there, we set up camp at a spot we used a couple of times. On this trip, there was 6 of us, and 4 of my friends decided to go to a party we found out about while on the trail earlier. I was tired from digging my Jeep out of a sand washout that I had no business diving into. Anyway, my friend's girlfriend decided to stay at the camp with me when everyone else left for the party. We watched the fire die down and listened to the animals. I got a kick out of her being afraid of coyotes making noise on the other side of the swamp. I assure her it's fine, they're miles away, they can't hurt us. After a bit, we get into our sleeping bags. As I start dozing off, she asks me, "Did you hear that?" I just ignore her and try and fall asleep. A minute or 2 later, she sits up again and asks, "Did I hear it?" And I say no, go to bed. Then, not even a minute later, I hear what sounds like an ice cream truck on the trail we're on go by. This trail is on a one-way, about 3 miles long, that ends in a clearing, and we're a good half mile into the woods. We also went to the end of the trail after we ate dinner, and there wasn't anyone on it. No one drove past us either. I didn't hear any engine noises, only creepy music, not to mention the trail was a rutty mess, so even a vehicle with a reasonably quiet exhaust would be revving high enough to be heard throughout the woods. I didn't tell her this because I didn't want to scare her, but it scared the hell out of me. Why in the heck was there a Jeep thing or ice cream truck driving past at this time in the night? And why the hell did it actually have sound coming out of it? Obviously nobody wants ice cream now. My theory is that it was actually something much more dark and menacing. Some weird people out there trying to lure in kids, or maybe just try and get attention to kidnap someone. I've heard of people using recordings in the woods before to try and capture people, and I think that this is the same situation where we just got lucky that I knew how to handle it. Now, I have a pretty good through hiking crew. We've done pieces at the AT, some Florida swamp, and a good amount in Maine. We consider ourselves pretty experienced. 2 of us are in the military. The other 2 are just fun to have around. So that being said, we emphasized preparation. This was probably 2015. We planned a 10-day trip in WVA along a river the week after Christmas. This is probably our favourite time to camp because 1, we're all alone. There's not too many people around. 2, no one is stupid enough to actually camp where we do. And 3, bugs aren't around. We've done this trail before and felt comfortable with the forecast. The highs are in the 30s and the lows are in the teens. Nothing we can't handle, so we set off. Weather's great. The trail we're on is a 26-mile loop, with hand railing most of the way. We eventually got to the spot we mapped out on the second day about 14 miles in, and get ready to chill and do man stuff for a week. We rock out into the woods doing the usual for us, cutting wood, hopping in the river, hunting, fishing, writing, etc. Now we've been out there before, and had explored maybe a 3x3 grid square radius, and we didn't see, hear or sense anyone else. Things start to get gnarly though. I'll get into the paranormal first. It's 5 AM and we're getting into our morning routine. One of the guys heads down the 10 meters to the river to catch breakfast. One starts checking on the NOAA forecast over the radio. One starts to unfreeze our water filter, and I'm pulling out the morning's firewood. I'm restarting our fire as it gets brighter. I then notice there's this gorgeous pair of black labs rummaging around our campsite. Pleasantly surprised, we're all pumped to find some pups, because we're idiots. None of us questioned where they came from, and within seconds, this raggedy looking guy appears out of nowhere behind a tree, shotgun on his shoulder, sweet jean jacket on, and a cowboy hat. He says, "Morning. Be great to have a fire, huh?" The way he said it was chilling. It felt like we could see right through him. We ask him how he got here. Mind you, the sun is barely peeking through the woods. We're 14 miles into nowhere. No park rangers around or anything. We've not seen a trace of anyone for 5 days. The man says, "Well, nothing," looking at us, now turning to walk further into the woods alone. And we stood there dumbfounded. When we find our pulse, we immediately start looking for where this guy come from. Which direction was he heading? Obviously, we find nothing, not even tracks from the dogs. But now the survival part. We had snow in the forecast for most of the week, which we had almost every day. Not too much, maybe only 4 inches through the week, but we noticed it started to get warmer. We're laying down for the night checking our nightly NOAA forecast, and they're talking about snow coming in for the night. No worries in our mind, at least it's not rain. False. We had limited cloud cover the day before, and the air was still pretty warm that night. It snowed, and that turns to rain. We hadn't taken rain precautions because we bedded down since we're just expecting snow. So we wake up at 3 AM, tent flooded, firewood soaked, packs and boots dripping. We get up and start getting an emergency plan together. Temperatures dropping, we're wet. Precip turns to ice, and apparently it's going to be like that for the rest of the day. So we pack up everything, trying to sanitize our area, but one of the guys starts going down. He's really lean, so he's pretty susceptible to cold weather injuries. We all get our dry clothing off and get him warm. We propped up a makeshift shelter, a trap and emergency blanket while we finish getting ready to step off. We rock 40 miles back to our car this morning and drive the 4 hours back to Nova. The weirdest thing was how that guy got out there on his own. I don't understand how there were no tracks around him or he could have went. For all I know, he could have died out there. But that's what confuses me. No one in their right mind would be out there with just dogs, with summer clothing on. We all realised it after, but we're pretty sure that he was not from this world and belonged to the ghost world. But I don't want to say it myself because how stupid I think that is. I don't believe in the paranormal, but I don't know what else it could have been. I do a fair amount of archery hunting when the weather permits it, and trap rabbits about 3 times a year. But I think the craziest thing that ever happened to me was while I was following some deer tracks. I've been tracking the herd for a couple of days, not planning on capturing one, just to observe one. So I'm hauling around a tree stand with my tent and bare essentials. That's before my pup got unwell. I'd bring her, but it had to be a solo trip this time because she's poorly. I generally let her tell me when I wasn't noticing something, but without her, it got fairly creepy pretty quick. I noticed I'm losing the light and rub my face in frustration. I wake up suddenly. I was just laying down with my tent and everything set up. Firewood under me and a riff in my jacket. Nothing else to show for it, except that it was way darker than before. I checked my watch. I've got roughly 3 hours to sunrise. I wonder who set up my tent. I don't understand it. They did it differently from how I normally do, but it wasn't in my usual formation. All of the zippers everywhere are open. It truly unsettled me. I decided to leave immediately. I don't know if I was drugged and this made me fall asleep, then somebody set up my tent, trying to make me not notice anything was different or what. But it was more than enough for me to leave the area immediately.